We've sat in your office that January day. We looked back at the history of the 21 million data points from the original scanner. When I walked into the University of Utah, I meet the physicists, I meet the lab, I see the whole team. I see this thing that's the size of a trombone, filling up a room, wires coming out of the ceiling, the whole idea, the vision of Nathan, the vision of taking it to Nu Skin, the vision of scanning the world. Yet what Joe said on our show last week, our chief scientific officer, our one of the co-founders of Pharmanex, which was acquired by Nu Skin, was, to see this entire vision, as Joe said, go from the phone connected to the wall, right, to now this portable, scalable, affordable device for the masses. And it was funny, since that last week, never in my son-in-law's history, who scanned hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people this week and this month or this year has hundreds of new subscriptions on the product. But this week he had something happen that has never happened in the history of Nu Skin. A customer said, "Can I buy that scanner and take it home for my family? Can I have that device portable, affordable, scalable, and now to be able to have these supplements like LifePak and have a monitoring system for the entire family?" And I think you said this week that you scan yourself like a couple times every morning, first thing, 5 a.m.
Well, a couple things. I actually scan once, and it's really important because a lot of people will scan multiple times and they'll see the little bit of variation that'll go on there, and that's very normal. This is a precise instrument. I mean, it is going in. So if you push a little hard, if you've got some resin or something like that, you don't put it in the same spot, you can have this little bit of variation that goes anywhere from 25 up to, I've seen up to even 100. Most of the time, whenever I've been with somebody who's scanning and they're putting it in the right place, they're doing the cloth over top of the prism, they're actually putting the finger in the right placement, they're putting just general pressure, not hard pressure, not light pressure, just putting it on top of that lens and fully covering it, and it's a clean hand. I mean, it is so consistent. But I do it once a day. I do it as I get up in the morning. Before I take my shower, I just hit the right there on the vanity, right there in the bathroom, and I just get my score. And what I think people sometimes miss is they get caught up on, it's 455 and now it's 395. It's they start getting caught up in the score, whether it's going up or down, that sort of stuff. It's what is the consistent direction. And that's true of life. I mean, you've talked about this all your life, is what is the direction of our life? It's not how fast, it's not the amount of movement backwards, forward, so forth, but what is the consistent direction? And I think that's the element that we have to consistently look at. And my recommendation is to always focus on two things. Number one is the direction. Number two is the color. The scoring is important because we want people to understand a number so they can kind of get in their minds. People like numbers. I mean, we're in a number age, right? But I wouldn't get too caught up in the number. Focus on the color and focus on the direction, and you'll be in the right place.
Yeah. I love how you say that because when we go back to the original scanner, here we are, award-winning scientific studies from, Mount Everest to Yale University. I mean, Yale University studies just galore. I know you geek out. You'll touch on some of the studies in a few minutes, but some of the common questions that came in today, and I remember you sharing with me, as I see people do their box opening and they take their device and their stand and they look at the whole setup and how cool it is. And we'll talk about the app a little bit later on as well. But the one thing that was so unique about Raman spectroscopy is it was that Nobel Prize winning science. And I remember you saying, look, we have new science and new abilities, scalable, affordable, portable. And now we use something called Spectral Ray. I've heard you say somebody say 175,000 light emissions. I've heard one of the scientists say 300,000. So whatever the number is, we're getting hundreds of thousands of light emissions in 15 seconds to determine that score. Maybe clarify for us the generational jump scientifically from Raman spectroscopy to whatever you want to refer to this spectral ray as.
I'm so glad you gave me the opportunity to clarify this. It's funny when you live and breathe it and you eat it every single day, you're like, oh, like maybe everybody else doesn't know this.
That's what the text message is nonstop.
Oh, well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. There's three parts to the Prism IO, right? The Spectral Ray technology, which is essentially this what we're calling hyper-spectral absorption. That's a big, big fancy word
Yeah,
for
it is.
essentially saying there are 5 lights they're diodes that are actually in the prism. Okay, before there were 2 in the scanner. Okay, so now we have 5.
Wow.
Now what's happening is there's lights that are actually emitting these rays in a certain timing and a certain fashion. So without giving away any of our secret sauce and so forth, it is so important to understand that this addition of these 3 extra lights and this clarification helps us get a better, more consistent, more precise, and more accurate score of carotenoids, and I know you're going to probably hit on this, other analytes.
Yes.
And so this is really important because, yeah, if we were one-dimensionally trying to find carotenoids, we found them, we got them, they're right there. But there's this whole host of other nutrients that are in our fingers besides carotenoids, including antioxidants, including vitamins, minerals, all these types of things. And certainly fat-soluble vitamins are in there. And so as you have these elements of, water, and you have collagen, and you have, protein, you have all these things that are in our bodies. And, Dr. Joe Chang has always been the one who's, we're going to get carotenoids. That's fine. I want to go deeper. And Joe's always going he's always ahead of everybody. I mean, I just have mad props. He's not on the call. He would be so mad at me right now. I'll take my lumps when he gets back to the office. He's in Taiwan right now, but he hates when I do this, but he's not here, so I can do this. He is quite simply probably the most brilliant scientist I've ever worked with. And like I said, I've worked with Nobel Prize winners. I've worked with people who are fantastic, and I've never met anybody who is so quick to say, yeah, we got that. Now let's go here. And he is so quick to try to figure out what else we can learn. So answer your question, the spectral ray in the simplest terms is a combination of the following. Number 1, the hyperspectral absorption, which is those 5 lights that are triggering, and it's actually 800,000, by the way, light emissions.
Wow. 800,000.
Uh-huh.
We didn't know that back in January, did we?
Well, here's the deal. Our engineers are amazing. Steve Powell, Haley Helquist, Norm, Scott Ferguson, Nathan Fisk. I mean, these guys are working closely with these universities, and they're finding this sequencing, and they were able to speed things up, and they would get a level of precision, and then they'd register it. I mean, the work that these guys have done, so many late nights, so many weekends that our engineers have been working on this, but they started to find the sequencing pattern, and they started to get as you know, science, you have a hypothesis, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to prove this theorem out and so forth, and you go through the process. And what we assumed was going to be the case was the case, but then we started to see something else. We started to pick up on differences in levels that we'd never seen before when we sped it up. And it started to, and it's not just a sequence of, they go around exactly the same amount of speed. There is a specific and precise algorithm that those lights flicker to get that 800,000. It's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It doesn't go like that. It's really, it's quite interesting when you go through the science of this. And so you have the hyperspectral absorption, which is those 5 diodes that are basically emitting those lights and sending that out. And then it's that combination of when it sends it out and it sees what's coming back. There is a portion of it that has this lens. It actually is looking at every single one of those 800,000 flickers and what the response is on the skin level. And as a result of that, it is taking that data and going back into an algorithm that is the Nu Skin's Raman database. That's why this is so important. It's all people, well, there's people who can measure. Yeah, but they cannot reference back to the 20 plus million data points that we have for over the last 22 years, thanks to you, Dan McCormick, and many people on this call. So that is the big difference. A lot of people say, and why is that so important? It really is the gold standard, has been said by, there's magazines out right now that are in the technology field that have nothing to do with Nu Skin, have nothing to do with, and they're actually talking about these groups who are trying to understand antioxidants and carotenoids, this technology teams, these people who are trying to, you mentioned a couple of groups that are wearables and such, and they're trying to understand what is a carotenoid. I mean, they're not in this field. And so they're trying to understand what it is. They want to do good things with health, and I applaud their efforts, but they have no idea. And so what's interesting is these articles are actually saying things like, well, these groups are trying to get to the gold standard, which is the scanner and S3, because that's what's been out there for so long. And now they've just upped their game again to this hyperspectral absorption tied to the proprietary Raman technology. And then the machine learning AI pulls it all together and provides a accurate score.
Wow, I love that you just said that, because I heard you say this week that the app was getting a firmware update. And, I drive this crazy car called a Cybertruck, and every time Elon decides to update my full self-driving or update something, it's just hit a button and go. And you guys had a firmware update. Tell everybody what that actually means. I mean, we partner with one of the greatest technology companies in the world, Full Power, literally an exclusive relationship with Nu Skin in our space. But this is a crazy cool thing. As I was talking with Bill Toth this morning about the future of this app and what it can do and all of the things for customer appreciation, customer information, customer capturing. I can't even imagine what a Black Friday is going to be like next year. I mean, your brain has to be going crazy on what we can do that we've never even touched on before.
Well, you've hit it on the head. I mean, couple things. Number one is, and we can get into it if you want. I know we only have 30 minutes, so I'll be really quick on my answers. I'll be quicker on my answers, Dan.
Well, we want to just tell everybody too that they'll be able to spend several days with us in January at the different events you'll be speaking at, and they'll be able to literally sit down for hours and go deeper. But I know you're giving us the periphery right now.
That is right. And so anybody who gives me a hard time later and says, why didn't you go deeper on that? It's because Dan says I only had 30 minutes.
That's right.
So, all right. So look, we just completed a clinical study confirming the correlation between Prism IO scores and blood serum carotenoids. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, that is the gold standard. That separates everything else from where everybody else is. They're saying, oh, yeah, the scanner can do that, but can Prism do that? And we did. That just came out last week. We'll actually publish that in probably, I believe it's 2 weeks. Because it has to go through all the.
So by the time we get to the corporate headquarters in January, we'll be seeing that study.
Oh yeah, you'll see it.
Yeah, nice.
And well, you'll see it not even at corporate. You'll see it in published articles going global through the science trade journals. This is not just breakthrough science for Nu Skin. This is breakthrough science for the world.
Of antioxidants.
The scientific community is blown away right now. They literally first they didn't believe it, then they were curious. Now they're going, oh, and now we're going to send this study out. And it went to a couple of key scientists and so forth that were giving us a lot of, I'm sure. And now we've given them the numbers and they're going, are you kidding me? And so it's funny because we're getting the flood of the, because they're very proud people. Now understand, these are scientists that, have told us that it's not going to work. And, how could you put it into a small little device and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, my point is that they're kind of coming back, and some of them, the humble ones, are actually saying we were wrong. The ones that aren't so humble say, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Why don't you send us over the more information about that? So, but it is the gold standard biomarker. And this validates Prism IO as a trusted tool for assessing nutritional status. And it is critical that we're able to use this machine learning piece. Going back to your point, you said essentially, you're saying, Steve, hey, when these scores come in, why is it different now? Well, we have this database that we just talked about. Think about this. In the last 2 weeks, we've already had, just with the prisms that we sent out, this is less than 2,000 prisms that are actually literally working out in the market. We already have just under 40,000 scans.
Unbelievable.
40,000.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started. And it's really quite amazing. Now, what's interesting is that this is a diverse population, in terms of skin color, in terms of age, in terms of where they're scanning, how they're scanning. I had some people sending me pictures and they weren't even putting their finger on the lens. Yeah. And they're saying, isn't this great? And I'm like, well, it's great, but you want to put the finger on the lens, And so, it's everybody's just trying to learn, right? This is going to be an educational process. But the great thing about Prism is the fact that this device now is taking every single data point that comes in. And it's, essentially it's anonymous to us. We don't know who it is. We just know some general information about it to help us with all of our data mining and so forth. But the point is that we are getting more and more and more precise. So we're going to take this new study that we have coming in, and then we also have another study that correlates the Prism IO with the S3. And why is that so important?
Yeah.
It's so important because we now have, before we had 3 studies with Prism IO, we now have 80. That's 80 studies.
We're going to have everybody type that in the screen just for fun. 80 studies on
80 studies that now tie directly to Prism IO.
Wow.
And what I mean by that is it talks about carotenoids, how you measure carotenoids, and all the work that we've done. So as you know, we have 132 studies with if you look at the quote unquote, the scanner or the S3 in combination with Prism. And of those 132 now, we've added 3 more. So now we're up to 135. And if you look at it, Prism specific, you go back to the biomarkers and understanding carotenoids, understanding antioxidants, and then you tie those back into the Prism IO. Because we have this, this correlation study is literally groundbreaking, and it just happened this last week. We already had initial information that we knew that it was going to happen this way. We assumed it was going to happen this way. We've already done our preliminary work to know it's going to happen this way. And Joe said it was going to happen too. So, I mean, those are all So, but we got all the validation came third party independently. And now we have 80 studies that validate that where we are headed is where everybody wants to go. And that's, do you know your score? And the most important thing, Dan, and I want to make sure I say this, because I only have 5 minutes left. I want to make sure this is really, really important. As enamored as people are, and as excited as people are about Prism, which is fantastic, it's wonderful. And I don't mean to diminish it in any way. I want to make sure that's clear. I'm not trying to diminish it. What I'm trying to say is that the most important thing, the absolute most important thing is the next step, meaning get a score. So you've done it. And so it goes exactly like I've discussed for the last year. You get a score, goes into the app, says my score is, let's just say it's 400. And then the app says 400 means this. And then what's the first question they ask you? What does that mean? Well, this is what it means. And there's a paragraph that says that in the app.
We had a lady get scanned yesterday, right in the community from one of my fitness trainers. And the lady said, I just got my blood work back. I'm good. And I'm just like, okay, let's go deeper. So what you just said is going to solve that problem. And then what you just said also, I can't wait for the new box to show up when I see a Prism right there instead of the S3 scanner right there. We're going to see so many cool things coming. I interrupted you, but I just got one more question as we close, but finish that thought.
No, I just want to make sure the important thing is to get people into the nutrition. And Joe and I have been talking about this the last little bit. It's in healthy lifestyle. So exercise, food choices, all those types of things.
Sleep. You talked about a lot about sleep this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, these lifestyle factors, I didn't even get a chance. See, you're not giving me a chance to actually talk about this great study that we just did in Asia that talks about sleep and foods and what are those foods and so forth. So there's so much more to cover, but I'm telling you, it's different, but make sure you get people onto what can they do every single day. The one thing they can do is take 1 minute and consume a product that they can at least get some nutrition to actually help their overall health score. Hopefully they'll eat better foods. Hopefully they'll get more sleep. Hopefully they can reduce stress. But the one thing they can absolutely control is that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, the old adage says, you always leave your audience wanting more. Well, they want a lot more. Oftentimes we'll do a bonus segment. We're not going to do that today, but I'll close with this idea because whether it's, elements, whether it's youth, whether it's nano, whether it's collagen product, all of these things, you said, they emit some type of action when those light emissions happen. But I don't know. Do you want to touch on the first conversation we ever had? I said, Steve, there's 3 ingredients in here. There's no way it can cost $100+. And you said, Dan, this is really expensive to do. But you used a word this week, analytes, that are pretty interesting for your score you found.
Oh, well, hey, anthocyanins are so important, and there's a ton of them out there. That's like saying there's, I don't know, anything you want. Quality is, try doing anything in life without any quality, and you'll find out the results are very, very consistent. Poor quality, poor choices, you get poor results. And anthocyanins, to get those anthocyanins that are in Meta, are really, really hard. And so the science and the breakthrough and the isolation and making sure we have the correct anthocyanin is really, really important. And for me, the number one thing that's improved my overall Prism score has been Meta.
Unbelievable.
Meta. And the reason it's so important is because it is such a powerful. Do you know, I talked to so many people today that said that I was just at the gym. We were talking about this morning, and they're all going, anthocyanins, are those enzymes? I'm like, oh, wow, I have not done my job.
Yeah.
So they're antioxidants. And when you're building antioxidants with anthocyanins and carotenoids and everything else, that combined is really the holistic approach that we want to go after. So I love Meta. It's my go-to. So my go-tos right now are Meta, Youth, and Life Pack. Are you ready for this? Elements.
Elements is right there, baby. Every day I mix it in.
I love it. I love it. I love Life Pack Nano too, but I just these little tablets, I just they're fantastic. So anyways.
Well, listen, what an incredible blue ocean journey you're giving us. We're going where no one's been gone before. We essentially are no longer in the business of competing for high quality supplements because we're the only people in the world that have the ability to measure, provide the 80 studies, all of these things. Steve, we'll look forward to seeing you. Thank you for your time.